Inside the Tape on 96.5 FM and 965thecave.com. Sports Talk Radio with a local angle, where we give opinions and analysis on what's happening in the world of sports, interview area coaches and players, and get you ready to start your day. Now, grab a flashlight, hiking boots, and a compass, because it's time to go inside the cave.
And welcome to Inside the Cave on this Thursday morning. Good morning, Lenawee County and around the world. My name is Pat Hayes. Ian Wen is with me this morning. Good morning, Ian.
Good morning, Pat.
A little foggy out there this morning.
Gosh, I had to sit in my car for like a couple, 3 minutes and let the defrost work. So,
Well, if you had a wife, she usually turns mine on when I'm in the shower.
oh, wow. Well, I got to get me one of those then.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
Or one of those button remote start things. I don't have that, so I had to
Got that.
sit in my car and wait.
Both my cars have that, so that's good. That's good.
Gosh, you probably park in a garage too.
Well, one of them is in the garage. I only have a one-car garage, so.
I mean, we're getting close to that time of year, and that means basketball season. So all you Wolverine football fans, it's almost over. You can start focusing on basketball.
Yeah. All right, let's get things started here.
Now for an Inside the Cave sports update.
And Michigan State fans too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Equal time here.
That's right. The future of the remaining high school fall sports tournaments and the entirety of the winter season remains in limbo. On Wednesday afternoon, the MHSAA's representative council met but did not make any new plans of action in light of the state extending the shutdown of high school sports till December 20th. The MHSAA initially planned to have practices resume for high school sports today, which was the scheduled end of a 3-week pause that was mandated by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services back on November 18th. The MHSAA hopes to wrap up the state tournaments for football, volleyball, girls swimming, and diving before the end of December. However, Governor Gretchen Whitmer announced on Monday that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services was extending its initial 3-week pause by 12 more days from that original December 9th deadline. Adrian College men's basketball, they scheduled 2 Division I opponents this week, and following a 62-42 loss to Western on Monday, the Bulldogs battled Eastern Michigan last night in Ypsilanti. Coach Kyle Lindsey talked to us about things he liked and didn't like following the game against Western.
I'll tell you what, I really liked our defense. I thought our guys were 40 minutes, our effort at that end of the floor and execution for the most part was not lacking. I think our guys were excited to play that game and they were focused and ready for it. Something that Coach Bates said to me after the game was, he said, hey, your guys played harder than our guys tonight, and make sure you tell them I said that. That's a tribute to our players and their effort, but also pretty gracious of Coach Bates to say that. Offensively, we're figuring ourselves out. I think we're learning who we are as basketball players. I like that we played with a lot of confidence. The shots are going to come, I think, the makes, and we just got to keep getting better at that end of the floor, but we saw some really nice things offensively as well. So I think we got to obviously take better care of the basketball too, especially since we are not shooting it at a high percentage right now. We need every look that we can get.
Again, Adrian College men's basketball coach Kyle Lindsey. His Bulldogs, like I said, were in action last night over in Ypsilanti. More on that later. The Lady Bulldogs, they took on Bluffton to overtime. They lost that game 70-66 in the non-conference game. The final score 70-66 in favor of the Bluffton Beavers. 2 players with 13 points for Adrian College. Rachel Bucher led in rebounds with 11 for AC. They're now 1-3 on the season. The Bluffton Beavers are 6-0. The leading scorers were Chelsea Palmer and Rachel Bucher. Freshman Morgan Morris added 11 for AC, and Kiana Warner pitched in 10 points. That was a career high. So a little more offense for the Lady Bulldogs, but still on the losing end. Hunter Dickinson scored 18 points on 8 of 11 shooting. He had 7 rebounds, blocked 4. Michigan defeated Toledo by 20, 91-71 in their first meeting in 37 years.
That game came together in one day.
Sure did. And a full game for Michigan. Isaiah Livers hit 3 3-pointers. He added 16 for the Wolverines. Michigan was supposed to play North Carolina State in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. That game, did they officially cancel it, or is it going to be
No, it's still
postponed?
postponed. They're still hoping that they may be able to get that in.
And elsewhere, the Lady Wolverines, Naz Hillman added 25, 7 rebounds. Leah Brown scored 19. Number 19, Michigan. They beat Butler 93-54. Ohio State will be eligible for the Big Ten Championship after all.
We'll be talking more about that.
According to Yahoo Sports' Pete Thamel and other reporters, the Big Ten was expected to vote Wednesday to remove the 6-game minimum rule, which they did. It will allow the 5-0 Buckeyes to play Northwestern in the conference title game December 19th in Indianapolis. Tuesday, Michigan called off its game against Ohio State because of a COVID outbreak. It's the third game of the season the Buckeyes have had canceled, although OSU was only responsible for one of those cancellations. So they're 5-0. They will play in the Big Ten Championship game. The Detroit Lions are considered 7.5-point home underdogs against Green Bay in Week 14. That's pretty low. Odds makers agree on the spread, setting the over-under between 55 and 55.5. These two teams met back in Week 2 in Lambeau. The Packers crushed the Lions 42-21. We'll see what Detroit can do. They're 5-7. They beat Chicago last week, winning its first game inside the NFC North since Week 17 of 2018. I almost said 2019. That's Week 17, 2018, and I think they beat the Bears in that game. The Packers, they're 9-3. They're rolling on the offensive side of the ball. They beat Philly last week, 30-16. And I'm going to grab that final score from the Adrian College men's basketball game against Ypsilanti, the Ypsilanti school in Eastern Michigan. A little bit of a misspeak there. Let's see.
The Hurons.
Yeah, as you refer to them, the Hurons.
They'll
So,
always be the Hurons to me.
Yeah, from what I could tell from social media, it was a high-scoring game, especially for Eastern Michigan. Here, let me get to the Bulldogs' schedule. It was 95 for Eastern, 35 for AC in that game against Eastern. A couple of exhibition games this week. Eagles just too much for the Bulldogs to handle, and I'll try to talk to Coach Lindsay either today or tomorrow, and we'll have some audio for the Cave. But that's it for the update.
All right. Thank you very much, Ian. That is your sports update for this Thursday morning. Plenty of stuff to talk about today. If you'd like to talk with us, give us a call here on the studio line at 517-265-4000. Send us an email, sports@965thecave.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
There's a lot of hot button things we can talk about, and I'll throw out a couple things. And like you said, if they want to talk about it or comment, do it. All right, just get it out there. We can talk about it. An article we posted last night was simply to move or not move on from Matthew Stafford. So you can go ahead and read that on 965thecave.com. It was written by JR, John Roberts. So go out there and check that out. That's shared on our social media as well.
Do it! Just do it!
Yeah, just do it. It's easy.
It's easy.
The question, we had a poll question, which will lead into our top discussion today. Are you upset that the Big Ten changed its minimum game rule to add Ohio State, or aid Ohio State, which is how it's typed out on Twitter? We had a no, they're not upset, 73%.
Uh-huh.
to 27
That's interesting.
were upset.
Okay.
Now, either that's all of our Buckeye followers, voting no for that. We do have a comment from Mary. Says it's 2020. Got to be able to adapt given whatever is thrown at you.
Good comment.
Yeah, you can take, I think, several avenues with this. Maybe they should have, they being the Big Ten, maybe look at okay, it's week 4. We're getting a lot more games canceled than we thought. We might need to change this. Instead of waiting till after Michigan cancels and you're like, oh, dang it, our best team only played 5 games. Now we should look at this.
Well, the way I look at it, this was the only decision that they had. They had to change the rule because look it. Back when this whole thing started, the Big Ten canceled the season before everybody else, and then they found egg on their face when the SEC, the ACC, they all decided we're going to play football. And then the Big Ten, well, they had a little change of mind. Well, I guess we are going to play football this year. So they didn't want to make 2 blunders in a row by making the entire world mad at the Big Ten for not letting Ohio State, the best team in the Big Ten, go to the Big Ten championship game and maybe not get a Final Four spot.
I'm not saying one thing is overriding the other, but you need to consider money.
Well,
And this whole thing has been money, right?
That's
It's
true.
been a part of it.
Yep.
You can't deny that.
Same thing with basketball. They have to run the NCAA tournament this year or it's lights out.
Yep. And what would make more money? Ohio State being in the Big Ten championship or Indiana?
No question about it.
It's Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm of the mindset, and I said this yesterday on the show, and I believe it, but I won't have a chance to be proven right, that Ohio State could have played in the quote-unquote second place game and played Iowa. Beat the snot out of them, and the committee would still pick them over a one-loss Big Ten champ, either Indiana or Northwestern.
Absolutely they would.
So I don't see why, except for money, that Ohio State would have to play in the Big Ten championship. There is precedent for a team not playing in their conference championship and making the playoff. Alabama. They did it.
Yeah.
They did. Georgia played in the SEC championship. The dominoes fell, and the committee picked Alabama. Why? I think the Big Ten should have sat tight and just said, well, we're following our rules and protocols. You pick the best team. Now, were they afraid of them not getting their Big Ten team in the tournament, in the championships? Maybe because money, right?
What about Tom Allen at Indiana? How do you think he's feeling about this whole thing?
I would be fuming. I'd be furious. We agreed on these rules. And then you're changing it the last week of the regular season. They played their 6 games. Right? They're 5-1. I would just cancel the second one, this last one, which they might have done already. I did see on the scroll last night that they canceled a Big Ten football game. What's going on? Why don't we get a chance? We played our 6 games. We've proven ourselves. We battled the Buckeyes. I mean, if they played them again, they might beat them, for goodness sake. I think Indiana's a quality team. Does the college football world think they are? No. But they followed all the rules, and they were able to get their 6 games in to play.
Well, here's this week's schedule. It was, of course, Michigan at Ohio State, which has been canceled. Illinois at Northwestern. Michigan State at Penn State. Minnesota, Nebraska. That might have been the teams that may have canceled that, but I'm not sure. Purdue at Indiana, Rutgers
could've-
at Maryland, and Wisconsin at Iowa.
I think it was the Purdue, Indiana.
Oh, Purdue,
And I saw, and
Okay.
and the scroll said like they've played. It was similar to the Michigan Ohio State game, is they've played like 100 straight years or something like that. But they had canceled it, and what's the incentive to play it now? You know, even if there were no COVID issues, don't play it. You're not going to improve your standing. You don't want guys getting hurt. You're 5-1. I don't know. I don't know if the people agree with my thought that the committee would have taken Ohio State regardless. And it kind of looks like it's like a spineless act by the Big Ten to say, here's our best team and they're the champ, instead of saying, here's our best team, but they couldn't play in the championship because of our 6-game rule. It just seems like it could be taken as a cowardly move by the conference, is to wait. Now, look, they knew there was a chance Michigan couldn't play 2 weeks ago
Right.
when they canceled the Maryland game. That's when you would change it. I don't know. The timing, like we talked about a little bit ago, is the timing has been all off with this conference. Cancel the season. Bring the season back. Wait till the last possible weekend to start games so you can't reschedule anything. And then say you have to play 6 games. And then go like 2 days before the last game, last weekend, and say, nah, you don't need to play 6. It just feels wrong and weird. I might sound mad. I'm just questioning everything. I'm questioning everything. I don't feel good about it. If you're the Buckeyes, would you feel really good about it? Well, yeah, because you're playing in the Big Ten Championship, but I don't know. That 6 number has been out there this whole time.
It has. And it is what it is. We'll have some more comments from John Borton next hour, as I'm sure he'll give us his perspective.
Yes. And bringing Michigan back into this, because on a normal week, we'd be previewing the game
Right, exactly.
that would be happening for the 100th plus time consecutively between Michigan and Ohio State. I go back to a couple, 3 months ago when they came out with their first schedule, Pat, and they had Michigan, Ohio State,
Yeah, right in the middle of
like
the
week
schedule.
2 or week 3.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they do that this time? If you wanted to get the game in, do it early, because that's the reason they bumped it up before, is so they want to make sure they can play it. But
That's,
now, we'll push it back to the end of the season. What
That's-
changed?
That's one of the questions that Ward Manuel was given at the press conference here on Tuesday, I believe it was. They asked him, why was it the first schedule you had Ohio State in the middle of your schedule? And, well, we looked at a lot of schedules and we looked at a lot of the different things. And he really couldn't give us an answer as far as, it's just the way it happened.
Isn't that another money thing?
Well, of course it is.
Like you were hoping that
Yeah.
Michigan would be good, right? Because they were supposed to be good.
Penn State was supposed to be good too.
Yeah. So this game was supposed to matter by this time.
Yep. Big revenue.
Yep.
Big
And
TV
everyone's
money.
tuning in and watching it. They're all at home. It's December, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I'll
That
tell
did
you
not
who's
happen.
really upset about this whole thing is Fox Sports 1.
Oh, yeah, they
were
were
going to cover
supposed
that
to.
game.
Yeah.
And they were promoting the daylights out of it over the weekend. And then now, who are they going to have now? Some also ran game.
I don't know. Maybe they'll take a Big 12 team or something. Put Texas on there again.
There you go.
My goodness. I don't know. I'm mixed about it. I question a lot of things. That's kind of what I do for a living, is question stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot more questions than, 4 or 5 days ago.
Well, being a Michigan fan, I'm pretty much okay with this because, you want your best team in the championship game as far as the Big Ten is concerned. And no question about it, Ohio State is the best team. They've proved it year in and year out. And I'll probably never say that again, being a Michigan fan.
You'll think it, but you won't say
Yeah,
it,
right.
And you'll know it deep in your gut that Ohio State's better. But man, I don't know. Either way, they were going to talk about the 6-game rule during the game, whether it was Indiana playing because they played 6 games or Ohio State because they didn't. It was going to be news either way. So maybe it was a lose-lose for the Big Ten, and they said, you know what, we'll just put our moneymaker, perennial power in the conference championship.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. I kind of got that all off my chest. If people want to comment on that, we'll have to
Yeah.
wait till after the break.
After
Too
the
bad.
break, we got to take a break here. Give us a call, though, on the studio line, 517-265-4000. You are inside the cave this morning with yours truly, Pat Hayes and Ian Wynn. Don't go away.
Let's talk sports. 96.5 The Cave.
Thank you, Will Tiemann, and welcome back inside the cave this morning on this Thursday. Pat Hayes along with Ian Went this morning. We've been talking about the Big Ten championship game coming up in not this week, but in a couple of weeks.
That's right. Ohio State getting we'll call it an exemption from playing their 6th game, and they'll make it in with 5 wins, no losses for the Buckeyes. How do you feel about it, Michigan fans? 517-265-4000.
You Ohio State fans, or you Indiana fans, or you Northwestern fans.
We don't have any Indiana fans listening. Because if we did, they would have called already.
You think so?
Yeah, they'd be fired up. They'd be upset.
All right, Indiana fans, you heard it. Give us a call. 517-265-4000, that's the number to call. And
It seems like a panic move. It really does. Like, the Big Ten is afraid that if Ohio State is not in the championship game, they won't get picked. I think they would. They've missed now 3 games, and what's their ranking in the playoff standings? They're still 4th. They would still pick Ohio State right now if the season were done. Why do they need to play in the championship game? I'm telling you, all of you, that they could beat Iowa, who is a top 25 team. They've won 5 straight, and still make it in. They don't have to play in the championship game, but what does it boil down to?
money.
Yeah.
What about the fact that if Ohio State was not the Big Ten champion, that's one of the criteria the committee has to look at, is the conference winner.
Right, they don't care about that.
That's one of their criteria.
They really don't. I honestly don't think they do. They let Alabama in. Remember when they did that? I mean, that was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Right?
Everyone thinks about that because they made that decision.
Is that the year
This
Auburn
committee-
beat them on the last-second touchdown?
They might have lost to them in season. I think they might have got their butt kicked by Auburn that year. But it was one of those. It was either the kick six or the butt kicking that Auburn gave Alabama. But the committee let them in. And that was in a, quote, normal year. If there was any year to let in a non-Power 5, non-champion of a Power 5, it'd be this year. And it would be Ohio State. Again, they've only played 5 games. They're ranked 4th in the country.
Do you think that if Indiana was put in that Big Ten championship game and they did defeat Northwestern, that would be the Big Ten's best team?
It would depend on what Ohio State did to Iowa. That would certainly factor in. We're forgetting Indiana gave Ohio State a game.
They did.
Weren't they in Buckeye Land, too?
But Penix is no longer eligible.
Yeah, he's
That
no
has
longer
a lot-
quarterbacking.
That's got a lot to be
Sure. And,
considered.
you know, Northwestern really shot themselves in the foot by losing to State. Like, because they were number, 8 in the country?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they don't lose to Michigan State. They're undefeated. Then the Big Ten would really be scrambling and say, we need to get Ohio State in here so Northwestern doesn't go. Right? I mean, that might be a big what if that Big Ten people aren't talking about is if Northwestern didn't trip over themselves and lose to Michigan State, the committee would need Ohio State to play Northwestern. They would need that to happen to get Ohio State in. Because you wouldn't take a, quote, 3rd place Buckeye team over a number 1 Northwestern team who had won the Big Ten.
Right.
That loss to Sparty really screwed Northwestern's chances of a playoff. That'd be a crazy show, Pat.
All right, here's another scenario. Wonder if the committee puts Ohio State at number 5 in the final poll and someone else sneaks in. Who would that other team be, do you think?
Oh, man. Well, I got to look up our standings now,
Well,
Pat.
you've got Florida. You got, of course, Cincinnati lost that game. They were in a prime position. but they went down a couple of spots this last week. But
Well, you got who else lost? BYU lost, so they're out. You got Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State.
Texas A&M,
Texas A&M.
they lost a game,
Yes.
and Florida lost a game, and Cincinnati is still undefeated, but they dropped to number 8.
So,
not sure
so
why.
what you're saying is, if Ohio State was not 4, who would the committee put in at 4? Well, based on that, it'd be Texas A&M. I mean, they would just move up a spot. I know the speculation's out there that the Buckeyes would play Texas A&M. Not happening. That was like a 2-second dream for the committee to have Ohio State play Texas A&M and essentially eliminate one or the other. That's not happening. But
That would be their semifinal to get into the Final Four.
right, yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would be like MSU in the Big Ten championship game a couple
Yeah.
years ago when they played Iowa.
Mhm.
They were 4 and 5. Whoever won got in. But that'd be a scenario there. It'd be 2 ACC teams, Notre Dame, Clemson, and then 2 SEC with A&M and Bama. That'd be something else.
I don't think that'll happen.
No. So I don't know. I still think that the Buckeyes not being in the championship game doesn't hurt them. I don't think it hurts them. But now they're in it, so it doesn't matter. I'm talking about something that will not happen and didn't happen, but I feel could have happened. And either the Big Ten looks dumb, and they panicked. They panicked and put Ohio State in.
Well, it's insurance that their best team gets in, basically is what it is.
Yeah, if they feel that their champion is the one that's going to make the tournament, I don't know. You're going to look at a Clemson-Notre Dame situation where they're going to play each other again,
Boy,
and they're both still going to be in the playoff, right?
yeah, I think so.
I mean, Clemson, if they go in and beat Notre Dame, I don't think Notre Dame's dropping below 4.
Well, what about if Notre Dame beats Clemson for the second time this season? That's going to drop them out.
That's the conversation. Then you're looking at
Then you're looking at Texas A&M.
A&M, and everyone says the what if Florida beats Bama in the championship.
That's not
I don't know
gonna
about
happen.
that.
That's not gonna
Yeah, I
happen.
don't know about that at all. Then we'd have to work overtime. We'd have to come in and do a Saturday night post Notre Dame beating Clemson show. Yeah, would you let a 2-loss Clemson team in?
Well, looking at that game, Clemson and Notre Dame, do you think Lawrence is going to make that much difference? Because he was out with COVID in the first game that Notre Dame played Clemson. Do you think he's going to be a factor in the game?
Do I think that possibly the best college quarterback ever is going to make an
Well,
impact?
his backup
Yes.
was pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, if Trevor Lawrence is in the game and they're not losing like 8 starters due to COVID, Clemson beats Notre Dame. And that would drop the Irish probably to 4. And if the Buckeyes beat Northwestern, that would move Ohio State to 3. I would think. So then it would be Alabama, Clemson in the semi, Notre Dame, Ohio State in the other semi.
That would be some pretty good matches.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And maybe that's the other thing is, okay, what if
Wonder if Ohio State just whomps on Notre Dame.
they could? It's happened to Notre Dame
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
When they get to the playoff, they get their, pushed in
Yeah.
by some other team. But, talking Big Ten, and maybe the conference is looking at this and saying, look, Ohio State's at 4. Our next highest ranked team is Indiana, and they're at 12. They've only lost 1 game, and Indiana's at 12. They're ranking them behind 2-loss Oklahoma, 2-loss Georgia, and 2-loss Iowa State.
And what about Coastal Carolina, 10-0?
They're not worth talking about on our airwaves, Pat.
Their strength
They're-
of schedule.
They're at 13. Well, they did beat a
Yes.
top 10 team in BYU.
Northwestern's at 14.
Yeah, I get Ohio State was their only chance, but I'm not going to repeat myself for probably the 15th time that they didn't have to play in the Big Ten championship to make it into the college football playoff. Maybe that's the poll question that I put up on our Twitter page, sort of retrospectively looking, is did they need to play in the championship game to get in the playoff? I think a win over Iowa or Northwestern has the same value, which isn't that much. I really don't.
Okay. What's your feeling on this whole thing? Listeners, give us a call here on the studio line, 517-265-4000. We got to take another break here. The time is going by quickly, so give us a call here. You're Inside the Cave this morning with Ian Wendt and yours truly, Pat Hayes. Heavy music for what we're talking about this morning. You're inside the cave. Ian White and yours truly, Pat Hayes. Give us a call here on the studio line if you'd like to talk sports with us. Give us your opinion. 517-265-4000, the number to call.
That's right, and I did put up the question on our Twitter page, twitter.com/965thecave. The question is, did Ohio State have to play the Big Ten championship game to make the college football playoff? My vote is no. Do you feel like they should have? Do you think it's the right move to essentially appoint Ohio State into the Big Ten championship game? So you can vote on that, twitter.com/965thecave. Our Twitter people also said that they're not mad that the Buckeyes are in there. So maybe yes would be the vote for that new question. I don't know. Be a part of it over on twitter.com/965thecave.
My vote is no, and I think the Big Ten was just making sure they had a little bit of insurance to make sure that Ohio State was going to be in the Final Four.
Just add it to the resume.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe because Indiana played them so tough the first time around that they're saying, okay, we need to beef up that Buckeye resume a little bit. So there you go. Make your opinion known. We're going to switch gears now to the NFL, the National Football League. We're going to go through a couple of these games, sort of break them down a little bit, and make some picks. And our lock of the weekend we'll do sometime this hour. So brought to you by Adrian Locksmith, of course. We'll get to that.
I know what to do now.
Okay, good.
I think.
So the game tonight, this will be aired right here on the Cave. The Los Angeles Rams, they are hosting the New England Patriots. The Rams are 6-point favorites. So we got Jared Goff and Cam Newton. Newton just not having a great season overall. Goff is playing really well. As of late, the Rams are rolling, but the Patriots are in the hunt for the AFC playoffs.
What, a 45-0 in their last game?
I could not have been more wrong on that pick. I think I picked the Chargers to win that game. Chargers stunk.
They did. I think I picked the Chargers too.
And I had a really good week.
You had a great week. You
The-
were
well, yeah.
11-2 or
11-3. So yeah, I had the Lions game wrong. I thought the Bears would win. I had the Steelers game wrong. And I had the Patriots and Chargers wrong.
Yeah.
Other than that, perfecto.
I had one more wrong than you did, so I was 9-4.
Well, you'd be, what, 10-4?
10-4.
It's somewhere on Twitter.
Yeah.
John Roberts posted him somewhere. But the game tonight, that line says a lot, that the Rams are only favored by 6. It says, remember in that Super Bowl when Belichick just really shut down that offense? They think he can do it again. What's your initial thought on that one?
Well, the Rams have really have done me wrong this year. When I picked them, they've lost. When I didn't pick them, they won.
So I'll pick the opposite of whatever you say.
I'm going with the Rams. I'm going with the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers do say Rams. They say, look, this Rams defense is so good. They are really good.
And the Patriots offense is, so-so.
Yeah.
Cam Newton, I don't know if he fits into that scheme or not.
It's weird to think that the Buccaneers with Tom Brady are 7-5, and the Patriots without Tom Brady are just one game worse. They're a couple of plays away from having the same record. I don't know if I'd bet this. I mean, the spread is 6, right?
Right.
Favoring the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I would take the Patriots with the points.
Actually, mine has gone down to 5 points.
Okay.
So they're getting less and less.
They're getting a lot of people are saying, look, we're betting Patriots here,
Yeah.
moving the line closer to New England. If we were picking the points, I would take New England to cover that.
45.
I think the Rams win this game. It's going to be like 17-14, 20-17. It's going to be really, really close. It's going to be a great game, of course, because you'll hear it tonight on the Cave.
That's right.
Just an added incentive. A game that a couple weeks ago we didn't think would matter, but now it's got playoff implications. The Arizona Cardinals. They're all of a sudden 6-6, fighting for their playoff life. They're going to a team that is, oddly enough, red hot. The New York Giants.
Tied for first place.
Yeah, I think they have the tiebreaker over Washington, so I think they're in first place technically.
NFC,
Giants are getting
yep.
2.5 from what I'm seeing. Is that moved closer to the Cardinals or no? Is that what you're saying?
2-point favorite are the Cardinals. You know, the Cardinals are another team that I just cannot figure out. Like I said, with the Rams, they win when I don't pick them, and they lose when I do pick them. But I'm going to give them one more shot. I'm going with the Cardinals. Because I looked at the schedule for the New York Giants, and they beat the football team. They beat some of the also-ran teams.
Yeah, well, their best win was Seattle last week.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was the game we got wrong,
Yes.
right? I don't think
yes.
anyone in America picked the Giants to win that game.
No.
But I'm going to be the sucker. I think I'm going to fall for it.
Uh-oh.
And then I think the
Chance
Giants.
for me to catch up.
It's a chance for you to catch up. I think the Giants, with Colt McCoy, I think is still going to be their quarterback, are going to.
Was Jones hurt?
Yep, Jones is hurt. So they beat Seattle without Daniel Jones.
I think Kyler Murray does it. He's been looking better and better.
All right, I'm jumping on the G-Men train.
Okay.
Going Giants, and
All
they're going to
right.
be 6-7. Who would have thought? Weren't they like 1-5 earlier this year?
They were.
My goodness.
They were.
A couple more games here. Get these in real quick. Minnesota goes to Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Gronkaneers are a 6.5-point favorite. Does Tampa Bay bounce back, or the Vikings continue to pillage and plunder?
6.5-point favorites. I can't go against Tom Brady. I think Brady is going to be a lot better than Kirk Cousins.
I think it's going to be a game of the Minnesota defense isn't great.
No.
They're not really that good either. So I'm going to go Tampa Bay here. Not because of Cousins. I think it's because that defense in Minnesota gave up 24 points to Jacksonville. Okay? Jacksonville. It's going to be tough. Tampa Bay off a bye. They're going to get that win. Final game, Detroit hosting Green Bay. The Lions clawing for a playoff spot. The Packers want to stop our throats to essentially eliminate the Lions.
Bzz, bzz. Not going to happen. Green Bay Packers in a runaway.
It's 7.5-point dog at home.
I got 8 points.
8-point dog at home.
And it's going up.
Is it really? Wow. Oh boy.
The Lions still have some injured players that haven't come back yet. So
And the over/under is 55. So they think
yes,
they're gonna think the Packers score about 40 points again.
absolutely. Yep, I think so.
Man, doesn't your little lion heart want to pick Darrell Bevell and Matthew Stafford?
Exactly.
Just one more
do.
time, right?
I would love to see him win.
Our little lion heart
And
wants
go to
us
6 wins?
and just be right in the thick of things in the
Yeah.
NFC.
Yeah.
I think Aaron Rodgers is going to break their heart.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I would pick the Lions to cover that, but lose in just a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching fashion. I think the Lions put it all out on the field, and they're just not a better football team. I really do.
I think
That stunk. That stunk. I hated saying that.
It'd be 40-14.
I think they'll give them a fight. I think they will. But
They usually play Green Bay pretty tough.
usually. Well, they led 10-0 this year. We all know about that. Right? 10-0
Led by
and then
double digits
They
in
sure
the first
did.
quarter.
at Green Bay.
Yeah.
So do we have time to get our lock of the weekend in here,
Yeah,
Pat?
let's do it. All right, and this week's Lock of the Weekend being brought to you by Adrian Locksmith. Let's be honest, you couldn't pick your nose if it wasn't attached to your face. So I can't imagine any of you can pick football games. So we're going to do it for you, okay? Adrian Locksmith has been serving Lenawee County and the surrounding areas for over 20 years. Adrian Locksmith is located at the corner of North Main and Maple Avenue in Adrian. Okay, our lock of the week.
We're going to pick the Michigan State-Penn State game. We'll get to that lock of the weekend right after this. Lock of the week. Adrian Locksmith commercial.
It's not planned.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Adrian Locksmith. We'll have Pat read that copy again. But lock of the weekend, it's either Michigan State or Penn State. They're both 2-5. Who ends their dreadful season on a positive note?
Michigan State?
Yeah. Oh, that's our lock of the weekend.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Michigan State in a game that 6 people will watch as they battle the Penn State Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. We're going with Michigan State and either Rocky or Peyton Thorne. Not sure who's going to start, but
Peyton Thorne looked pretty good.
yeah, I think whoever plays will play a really good football game and a surprisingly good season for Michigan State will end 3-5.
All right, our lock of the weekend has been brought to you by Adrian Locksmith. Security is their business. Adrian Locksmith is at 402 North Main Street in Adrian. Give them a call, 517-263-1415, or check them out on Facebook. First hour is in the books. Stay tuned for hour number 2. You're inside the cave.
Inside the Cave on 96.5 FM and 965thecave.com. Sports Talk Radio with a local angle, where we give opinions and analysis on what's happening in the world of sports, interview area coaches and players, and get you ready to start your day.
Good morning.
Now grab a flashlight, hiking boots, and a compass, because it's time to go inside the cave.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of Inside the Cave. Pat Hayes along with Ian Wendt this morning. And we'd love to have you talk with us. If you have something on your mind, sports-wise, give us a call on the studio line, 517-265-4000. We have a guest this hour. It'll be the editor of the Wolverine magazine, John Borton, will be with us at about 8:28 this morning.
Yep, talking all things Michigan. We have basketball, football. I tuned in, Pat, to Michigan hockey last night. It's the number 5 Wolverines were hosting number 4 Minnesota. It did not go well for the Maize and Blue. 4-0, that final score. Yeah, quality hockey.
All
It's
right,
good to watch.
let's get things underway.
Now for an Inside the Cave sports update.
So, the future of the remaining high school fall sports tournaments and the entirety of winter season, that remains in limbo. On Wednesday afternoon, the Michigan High School Athletic Association's Representative Council met but did not make any new plans of action in light of the state extending the shutdown of high school sports till December 20th. The MHSAA initially planned to have practices resume for high school sports today, which was the scheduled end of the week 3-week pause that was mandated by the MDHHS back on the 18th of November. The governor announced on Monday that the MDHHS extended the 3-week pause by 12 more days. The Adrian College men's basketball team, they scheduled 2 Division I opponents this week, and following a 62-42 loss to Western Michigan Monday, the Bulldogs battled Eastern Michigan on Wednesday night in Ypsilanti. Coach Kyle Lindsey told us a few things he liked and things he thought his team could work on following their game against the Broncos Monday.
I'll tell you what, I really liked our defense. I thought our guys really defended for 40 minutes. You know, our effort at that end of the floor and execution for the most part was not lacking. You know, I think our guys were excited to play that game, and they were focused and ready for it. You know, something that Coach Bates said to me after the game was, he said, hey, your guys played harder than our guys tonight, and make sure you tell them I said that. You know, that's a tribute to our players and their efforts, but also pretty gracious of Coach Bates to say that. You know, offensively, we're figuring ourselves out. I think we're learning who we are as basketball players. I like that we played with a lot of confidence. You know, the shots are going to come, I think, to make. And we just got to keep getting better at that end of the floor, but we saw some really nice things offensively as well. So I think we got to obviously take better care of the basketball too, especially since we are not shooting it at a high percentage right now. We need every look that we can get.
And that's Adrian College men's basketball coach Kyle Lindsey, hoping to get some more quotes from him and maybe get him back on the show following their game against Eastern, which they played last night. Bulldogs went up to Ypsi. They trailed 64-19 at half. And the final score for that contest was 95-35 in favor of the Eagles. Just reading this recap from Mike Prang, the Assistant Sports Information Director at AC. He said the Bulldogs struggled to break the early full-court press by the Eagles, so the Eagles really stomped it on the Bulldogs right away. Struggled scoring for AC. Let's see. Kendall Bellamy finished with a team-high 10 points, and Robert Warwick and Connor Pelham, a couple other notable Bulldogs, finished with 4 for AC. So offensive struggles, defensive struggles, and a tough one against a D1 school.
Can you take away much from a game like that where you're really blown out?
Well, I'll ask Coach Lindsey that. I'm sure he's been in that position before, and you learn a lot more from a loss than a win. You know, and any coach will tell you that.
A lot of teaching moments.
Yep, for sure. For sure. To the women's side, little bit of a different story for Adrian, but the same result as the Lady Bulldogs traveled to Bluffton. They lost in overtime to the Beavers, 70-66. 4 Adrian Bulldog starters scored in double figures Thursday, but it was not enough. 70-66 the final score. Seniors Chelsea Palmer and Rachel Bucher led Adrian with 13 points. Palmer had 9 rebounds. Bucher had 3 steals. Well, she was 3 steals shy of a triple-double. She pulled in 11 rebounds. So a lot more offense than we're used to seeing from the Lady Bulldogs. They could not hold on and lost in overtime. Hunter Dickinson, he scored 18 points on 8 of 11 shooting, grabbed 7 rebounds, and blocked 4 shots. Michigan defeated Toledo 91-71 in their first meeting in 37 years. Isaiah Livers, he chipped in 3 3-pointers, added 16 points for the Wolverines. Michigan scheduled Toledo after North Carolina State announced Monday it had to back out of the scheduled ACC Big Ten Challenge matchup. For the women in Ann Arbor, they defeated Butler, the number 19 Wolverines, won that game 93-54. And Ohio State will be eligible for the Big Ten Championship after all. The 5-0 Buckeyes will play Northwestern in the conference title game December 19th in Indianapolis. As you all know, Michigan called off the game against Ohio State, so they could not play the 6th game initially required. Now they bumped that back to 5, allowing the Buckeyes to play in that championship game. And one more quick headline. The Lions, they are considered 7.5-point home underdogs against Green Bay.
8.
Oh, they moved it to 8 in Week 14, as the Lions have a slim hope of making the playoffs. Some quick good news as of now. DeAndre Swift, he looks to be back. He was in practice Wednesday. According to interim coach Darrell Bevel, he's missed the last 3 games. It says due to a brain injury and unrelated illness, and practice sparingly. That's a scary couple of words, huh?
Serious.
I don't know if that's technical term for concussion or what else that could be, but reading brain injury,
Yeah.
scary stuff.
No
So
kidding.
glad to see Swift back. I hope he's doing well and good enough to play and
Yeah.
give the Lions a chance against Green Bay.
They're going to need him.
They'll need every last bit of them. But that's it for the update. We do those at 7 and 8 o'clock weekdays here inside the cave.
All right, thank you very much, Ian. As we move along here, if you'd like to talk about something that's been on your mind, give us a call here on the studio line, 517-265-4000. That's the number to call. Twitter poll, what's the latest on our question?
Yeah, so the question I posed and really dominated the first hour of the show, and so far my opinion right now seems to be prevailing. So the Inside the Cave poll question on twitter.com/965thecave, did Ohio State have to play in the Big Ten Championship game to make the college football playoff? I said no. Twitter so far, 83% says no to 17% yes. Now, Pat, I feel like you're leaning toward the yes side of things.
No,
you agree? Okay.
I'm in total agreement. Like you said, it comes down to money. They had to have Ohio State in that championship game because the TV revenue is just too good to turn down. And if you would have had an Indiana or a Northwestern, the revenue would plummet, I think.
Here's the other thing, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about this. Does Northwestern have a shot at beating Ohio State?
Well, the same answer. No.
No?
They don't.
Okay.
After that loss to Michigan State, which was really pathetic.
What do you mean? I thought it was pretty good.
Well, it was a good victory for Northwestern,
Michigan State.
or Michigan State, I'm sorry. But,
Yeah, they were exposed.
Really,
They have a bad offense. They have a
did.
bad offense.
They did. So, yeah, for Northwestern to lose that game, that really, their stock went way down.
Yeah, we see that in the poll for the college football playoff. But anyway, you can go vote on that Did Ohio State have to play the Big Ten championship game to make the college football playoff? I think we both value a win over Iowa the same as a win over Northwestern. Northwestern beat Iowa by a point earlier in the season. So,
But Iowa's gotten better as the season went on.
5 straight wins
Yes.
for the Hawkeyes, including a thumping of Michigan State, 49-0. It's not like it's burned in my memory or anything of getting housed by the Hawkeyes.
You've got your green on this morning too.
I do. Yeah, well, it's kind of cooler today outside, so I kind of layered up, carried it on with me. I wanted to counter your maize and blue. Right, you're wearing it?
I don't have my maize and blue.
Oh, there's no Michigan on the front?
I have my 50-year-old WLEN sweatshirt on.
Oh, 50 years.
It seems like it's
We should print T-shirts celebrating the 50th year of that shirt.
There you go. It's an oldie but goodie, and I like wearing it. And we did find out who our guest picker is this week too.
Oh,
That is Steve Barkway.
all right.
Yes.
The
And just to give you a little heads up, week 17, Bill Simonson from The Huge Show is going to be our guest picker. We got a hold of him yesterday, gave us a few shout outs on the Huge program yesterday between 3 and 6, and wishing us a happy first anniversary.
well, that's great, and I'm glad we saved one of the hardest weeks to pick for the Huge Show. And Bill, right? Isn't week 17 the toughest one to pick?
Oh, absolutely.
Because most of the playoff things are squared away.
Yep.
Backups are playing, who's not, who's going to sit, what games matter. Yeah, I'm glad we saved the tough one for the professional over there on the west side. So, should be fun.
It should be a lot of fun. And of course, you can hear The Huge Show every weekday here on 96.5 The Cave from 3 to 6 p.m.
Yep, good stuff. He gets really quality guests on, and I'm happy, of course, that we have him, and surprised how quickly he can get Mark Ewell on with the MHSAA. It's like there's a press conference at 2, he's on Huge at 3. It's great stuff. It's a lot of good sports information, a lot of statewide sports talk there on the Huge Show. And thanks for the shout outs. And we got a couple of professionals in the business doing our picks with Steve Barkway, the longtime sports director over on WLEN Radio, and like you said, Bill Simonson from Huge.
All right, let's move things along here on this Thursday morning. A little foggy out there coming in this morning, but just drive carefully out there today.
Yeah, it took longer for my car to defrost than for me to get here. So that kind of gives you an indication of that. Did you put your scraper in your car? Because you're going to need it. If you just woke up and you're like, oh, I wonder if, yeah, you do. No question.
I keep telling myself I'm going to put that covering you can buy over your windshield so when you get up in the morning there's no frost on it.
Right, but you said your wife warms up your car for you.
Well, she does, yes.
So maybe she should buy that. Save her some time in her
Hey,
morning routine.
Be careful, she's listening this morning.
Well, Merry Christmas. I spoiled it for you.
Merry Christmas.
Sorry.
All right. Well, you were talking about Mark Ewell there a second ago. The Michigan High School Athletic Association kind of in limbo right now with the finishing of the, spring sport, or not spring sports, the fall sports, football, girls swimming, and the volleyball championships. Do you think we're ever going to get them in?
I'd say hang tight and anticipate the spring. At this point, anticipate the spring. They've waited. The MHSAA has been proactive. They said, okay, here's what your deadline is. Here's the day we're going to restart. Here's our days we're going to do it. And I understand completely why they did it, and it's responsible for them to do that, right?
Absolutely.
And to say, all right, if we're going to reopen things this day, and you say we can play, we're going to do it here. And then it gets extended. I don't think in the calendar year they could make that work. It's getting too cold. It's getting too jumbled up. I don't know. That's where I'm at, is that if the MDHHS and the governor's office and whomever thinks that they can't get him in now, they won't get him until the spring. They're going to wait. And
how many weeks have we've been off now too, that, you know, the players, unless they're working out on their own, I mean, it's you know, it's going to take a week or two to get them back in shape to play in the spring.
yeah, and can you start winter sports before fall is done? Because I'm sure you got some football players still playing that also play basketball or wrestle or,
Baseball.
yep, baseball in the spring. And, you know, they need to get back into the rhythm. We were 2 games away from being done with 8-man football. And was it 3 away from 11-man?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the teams are done playing.
Yeah.
Like the vast majority of the teams are done. We had 4 left in 8-man football. We couldn't get those games in. I don't know. Apparently not.
Well,
I'm not going to question medical experts. That's not my place on a sports talk show. But I can't blame the MHSAA for essentially throwing their hands up and saying, we can't put out a date again. You know, they've done it before. They get everyone's hopes up, and it just doesn't work out.
Well, with the way the numbers are going right now, it'll be lucky if we play spring sports.
Oh, Pat, we're diving into something here, and I don't want to go in without my noodle. I'm gonna drown here. You know, you talk about how does it affect kids, essentially, young people, and how severe is it? How likely is it to spread and be contagious, and for there to be adverse effects on the kids? From what I'm being told, it's not as great as the older population.
Well, Huge definitely has some feelings about that. If you listen to his program, he thinks the kids should be back in school. It's the numbers show that, you know,
It doesn't really get spread.
It doesn't get spread. No.
I mean, they were doing everything that the science was guiding our politicians and the health department to do. Wear a mask, socially distance, in school, separate people, do this, that, the other thing. And I don't think transmission was happening in school. These kids were playing football with a mask on. They were playing football with a mask on. And apparently that wasn't good enough. It's not spreading in sports, right?
No.
I'm not seeing any of that data that it's spreading in sports. It's spreading at home. Are you playing your sport at home? Unless you're playing esports, you're on the field with a mask on if you're in the state of Michigan.
Well,
What can the MHSAA do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
They're at the mercy of
their
the.
hands are tied
Yep.
by
So-
the health department. Really, it comes down to it.
Yeah, and you're going to say that through 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks of this, it was fine, while case numbers were still going up and schools were shutting down. And now, 3 weeks ago is when, okay, we need to stop. Cases were rising before. They really were, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's not like the rate of infections were slowing down at all. The timing of that was weird, and I'm sure other people have stronger opinions that have followed a lot more studies and data than I have. I'm going based off my knowledge and what I see and report, and I know the numbers in Lenawee County. There's like 3,000, just over 3,000 total cases.
Mhm.
There's about 15 or 1,600 active cases in a county of 100,000 people, roughly. It's under, but I like to round it to 100,000. So that's what I know. And I can't blame the MHSAA for essentially meeting and saying we're not going to put a date out there.
Yep. All right. Hey, we got to take a break here, and We'll be back with John Borton from the Wolverine magazine coming up here at about 8:28 this morning. Don't go away. You're inside the cave this morning with Pat Hayes and Ian Wendt. Inside the Cave this morning on this Thursday. Pat Hayes along with Ian Wendt this morning, and on the other end of our line this morning we have the senior editor of the Wolverine magazine, John Borton, to talk about Michigan football. And John, of course, we all know about the cancellation of the game, Michigan versus Ohio State, that was supposed to be played this coming Saturday, but that game is off. And I guess the big question today is your feelings on the fact that the Big Ten has realigned its rules and letting Ohio State go to the championship game in a couple of weeks.
You know, you could see that coming from a mile away, Pat. I was telling people a couple of weeks ago that what I fully expected to happen, and there are arguments to be made for both sides, I would say. If you're Indiana, you're saying, wait a minute, we set these rules before the start of the season, and this is not right, this is not fair. If you're Ohio State, you can rightly point to the fact that you have the best team in the Big Ten. You have the best team certainly in the East. You beat Indiana head to head, and through no fault of your own, those games were taken away. So I get it. I think the Big Ten, honestly, in this situation, is trying to do what's right and put forward their best team and give it a chance to make the playoff, or the college football playoff. I can't get too worked up about this one, despite the fact that Ohio State is bad guy number one. If you're a Michigan fan, I get that. But the simple fact of the matter is, it's a situation that allows the Big Ten to put forward its best team to the next level in a year that's just admittedly crazy and offbeat to begin with.
Well, we have a Twitter poll that has been out this morning, and following in that same direction, 80% of the folks say that yes, it's okay for Ohio State to go to the Big Ten championship game with only 5 wins.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's clearly great credit to Indiana. They gave the Buckeyes a run, and what Tom Allen's doing down there is fantastic. I think it's been really well recognized, and you can't make that argument. I mean, rules are rules supposedly, but right now, rules seem to be very temporary, and the fact of the matter is, Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten East, and the Big Ten said when we drew all this up, we were doing it on the fly. We want to revisit it now. Tough luck for the Hoosiers, but certainly the Big Ten is looking to, as I said, put its best team forward.
Good morning, John. Do you think this timing makes sense from the Big Ten? I know they canceled the season, then they said we're going to restart the season, and then they didn't give themselves wiggle room. It's sort of been a theme of timing hasn't been great. Do you think that's the case here with the switch from needing 6 to not needing 6?
Well, it's unfortunate timing, especially if you're the one on the outside looking in, and I mentioned that. But I do think that Big Ten kind of stumbled out of the gate on this one all the way through. It prematurely, in my mind, canceled out the season. That cost players. It cost Michigan its best cornerback and its best receiver. And that was just the beginning of woes for the Wolverines, who then had the flood of injuries. But it also left the Big Ten teams in a situation where there was no wiggle room. None at all. When you had all these other leagues starting on time at the normal start of the season in September, they had that space to be able to sit out a couple of games, a couple of weeks,
and still play a full enough complement of games where we wouldn't be having this discussion. So I think the Big Ten screwed it up from the very beginning as far as that goes.
And speaking of, initially needing a sixth game, Michigan would have been that sixth game for Ohio State. John, you're close to the Wolverine program. How's that COVID situation doing? We heard the number 45 players that could not go. That includes injuries, positives, and contact tracing. Any update on that?
Well, from what I understand, it definitely has been getting worse over the last 10 days. And that is an important distinction that you may be in that it's not all COVID cases, but there's COVID and contacts. And once they do the tracing, you have guys that are having to quarantine because of that. And Michigan would be going to Columbus with a severely limited roster. Michigan has been very careful and did so well early on. I think that this is not some situation where Michigan is trying to duck Ohio State, no matter how it's fun. You can do two things at once. You can acknowledge that Michigan, if it played that game, would be very likely to get kicked pretty good, like it has the last couple of years, because it's in a rough situation, COVID or no at this point. But also, you can also recognize, and I think this is something that Kirk Herbstreit had to reel it back in on very quickly when he said that he expected Michigan to wave the white flag. You can also recognize the integrity of the guys in charge here, of Ward Manuel, of Jim Harbaugh, of those doctors down at Schembechler Hall who have been every step along the way saying, these are the protocols we follow. Here's where it's going to kick in to where we're not going to allow games to go on and be played. I just think that it's a situation where, yes, they're trying to stay on top of this. It's not like the country is way down in terms of this pandemic, and this is an outlier. This is following what is happening around the country with a rise in cases, a little bit of a surge here, and so I get it. I understand.
Well, I think, a lot of this has to deal with revenue. And I know the Big Ten wants to put their best team in the national spotlight. And of course, the Buckeyes are at number 4 in the national championship playoff race. And do you think that even if the Buckeyes did not go to the championship game, that they would still maintain that number 4 position?
It's hard to say. I think that there are voters who would just make the argument, look, we've seen them, we understand that how good they are, whether they play an extra game or not against somebody in the Western Division of the Big Ten, that doesn't matter. We can see that Justin Fields and these guys are one of the top 4 teams in the country. There are others that, and they would be certainly from other areas in the country, and they would be people that wanted their team to get in that would say, well, no, wait a minute, they didn't even play for the Big Ten championship. You would have some of both. Whether it would be enough on the ladder to swing things to keep Ohio State out, I don't know. I don't happen to think so, because I think most people have seen enough out of what Ohio State has produced, not only this year, but in recent years, with many of the same cast of characters to advance them to the college football playoff. Either way, you're going to have people unhappy. I mean, if I'm somebody on the cusp, if my team is on the cusp of the playoff, and I see a team get in with fewer wins and not playing in a championship game, I'm screaming bloody murder too, most likely. More likely if I'm just a fan that's looking on, or somebody inside the team.
Now, in my mind, I think I sort of go along with you, and we put up a recent Twitter poll about Ohio State having to play in that championship game or not. it won't be the same type of championship game. I doubt there will be any fans there. So it's got a little different feel to it. And John, I value a win over Iowa, which would be the second place team in the West, almost as much as a win over Northwestern, who's the number one team in the West. So it's kind of a push for me of who Ohio State plays. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, I mean, Iowa is as good a team as you've got going in the West right now, and that any win over Iowa at this point is a very quality win. Congratulations to the teams that have been able to get it going and keep it going over in that division. Iowa came out of the game very slowly and was stumbling, but that's been one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten.
We're talking with John Borden, senior editor at the Wolverine magazine, and we have to take a break here, but we'll be right back. Don't go away. You're inside the Cave this morning on 96.5 The Cave.
Real big hits, really big plays. We are talking about 96.5 The Cave.
Welcome back to Inside the Cave here on this Thursday morning. We're talking Michigan sports right now, and on the other end of our line, of course, is our usual Thursday guest, John Borton, senior editor of the Wolverine magazine. And I guess next subject coming up here is the contract for head football coach Jim Harbaugh and where that is now. I know Ward Manuel said that after the season, they're going to sit down and talk about it. There was a report by John Bacon that pretty much has been taken care of. They just haven't made the announcement. Have you heard anything, John?
Well, I mean, we have heard certainly that there has been considerable effort behind the scenes to get things aligned and get a contract that Jim Harbaugh will agree to for an extension. We've heard that it's a situation where it would be more incentive-laced and less money, which certainly you could justify from the Michigan end of things because of the lost revenue. Question is, does Jim Harbaugh accept it, go for it? Does he pursue options that he may have out there in the NFL? And, we've yet to see that. It's an interesting stiff arm the other day when questions were asked about contract and all, because both Jim and Ward said, look, we're going to do this after the season. The irony there is the season very well may be over. You're supposed to have the crossover game next week, but in Michigan's situation, that simply may not take place.
Yeah, and I just from learning about Harbaugh and his personality, maybe he doesn't go for that incentive-driven thing because what's going to be the incentive? Beat Ohio State, beat Michigan State, and he's beaten State 3 times, and he's winless against the other state school. Do you think that's the type of incentive that would be in a contract like that?
I think so, absolutely. Those target goals against rivals, making the Big Ten championship game, winning the Big Ten championship game, making the college football playoff, all the things that, to this point, Michigan has not done under Jim Harbaugh. And, if Jim Harbaugh came in here cited as the ultimate competitor, if he is, maybe he just says, okay, I am in the 4 years of this, 1 year that I have left, and if it were to be a 3-year extension, I can get this done. I can still make changes in this staff and get us back to not only the 10 wins that they were cranking out, but get over the top in that big game. They almost did it in 2016. I think we're a long way from where we were there in terms of frontline talent, and also I just, I see a more reserved, a less fiery Jim Harbaugh in some ways. Whether he can rekindle all of what put him in position to beat Ohio State in 2016 before it just slipped away at the very end. I think, Michigan fans, people looking on, would welcome that. But the question is Jim Harbaugh willing to bet on that? In many ways, this is his dream job as the head coach. Back home in Ann Arbor, back to the program that he played in, that he loved. But if you're not able to get over the top, I remember talking to Jerry Hanlon, and this wasn't in regard to Jim Harbaugh, but Jerry Hanlon, Bo Schembechler's longtime right-hand man, who said, if we hadn't won in '69, if we hadn't laid down that foundation, if we hadn't had success against Ohio State early, people would have felt very, very differently about us than they did. So the mission is clear. The question is, does Jim Harbaugh want to continue to try and take it on at this point.
Is it common for there to be incentives like that in coaching contracts? And is that something like unheard of in Michigan, or is this more common than we think, but we think it's crazy because we're talking about Jim Harbaugh?
No, it's quite common. I mean, you have a base salary, and a lot of these contracts have incentive steps where you can build up considerably beyond what the base is, and there's nothing unique about that. I think in this situation, it indicates that okay, we're not making. We took a big financial hit in football, and other. Well, you take it in football, you take it in everything in a given calendar year at Michigan, but also maybe an indication that it's show me time, that you have to produce on an extension, or else we're coming to the end of the road.
Well, let's change to a little more positive subject. The Michigan basketball team, another victory last night over a Toledo Rocket team. Kind of a last-minute substitution for North Carolina State. Really impressed with the Wolverines. They got off to a fast start. Really impressed with the local product Austin Davis, who scored, I think, the first 10 points for Michigan.
Not a bad start for the young man, was it? It was a lot of fun there to see Austin Davis come flying out of the gate, and he is such a class kid and such a growing and strong basketball player. Toledo did not have the sort of bigs that Michigan will face in the Big Ten, and the Wolverines absolutely dominated them from that standpoint. Austin Davis gets them off to a flying start with those 10 right out of the gate, and then his tag team at center, Hunter Dickinson, the freshman, comes in and scores 18. Michigan has a really good situation right now at the 5 position, and you couldn't have a better guy, as I think I've said before, in Austin Davis, not only to give you a good play on the floor, but to mentor the next guy and mentor the guy coming in that will sell you and also contribute.
One of the announcers last night made the comment that he has a certain date on his calendar, and that's when the University of Michigan takes on the Iowa Hawkeyes, when Dickinson will be going up against arguably probably one of the best 5 men in college basketball in Garza.
Yeah, Luka Garza is one tough big fella, and here's the great thing for Hunter Dickinson. It is not going to become some kind of shock when the kid goes against it, because Hunter Dickinson knows Luka Garza, knows the family, has played against him several times in different levels back when he was in high school. So that is no surprise whatsoever. It will be fun to see the muscle that Michigan is able to throw against the Hawkeyes and against Garza in the combination of Austin Davis and Hunter Dickinson. So, I'm looking forward to that one myself.
And looking at the overall scope of things in college basketball, we've had, of course, Toledo becoming a last-minute addition to the Michigan schedule. Michigan State, Virginia postponed for the Big Ten ACC challenge. Do you think, John, that it's going to be difficult for these teams to find opponents like it's been for football, or do you think basketball is a little more fluid and there's a lot more teams to, I guess, pick from if you need to fill in that spot? Basically, the framework for getting in a full season.
Yeah, there's so much more flexibility with basketball. There's so many more games. You can not play a game, and it's not really that big a deal in the long run. I mean, you might say, okay, Big Ten teams need to have, and nothing's been decided along these lines yet, but maybe you have to play 12 games to qualify for the regular season Big Ten championship. But even then, you know, here's the difference with basketball and football. A, basketball, like I said, many more games, but B, basketball is falling at a time in which, yes, it could be, you know, you could get these waves and you could miss some games in the next month or two, but at the same time, it is falling when you've got these vaccines coming out, and you may very well be able to get to March Madness and be in a much different position than you are now for football at the end of its season. So I think that you know, while the short-term situation may be iffy, and is in several instances, we've seen that with the ACC Big Ten Challenge. At the same time, the end game here could be much brighter outlook for March Madness, for the NCAA tournament, and all of that down the road.
Well, we're just about out of time here, John, but we did want to say I am one of your newest members of the Wolverine magazine. I got my subscription in this past week, and very, very satisfied. You've written some very nice articles, one especially on Daxton Hill. But how can folks subscribe to the Wolverine?
Well, anybody that's interested in the monthly magazine, just call the following number, 800-421-7751. They will hook you up with the issue a month, all the recruiting that is going to be very important for the Wolverines in the days to come, and all the analysis, all the features, all of that. And we're there every day on thewolverine.com, thewolverine.com. Go check us out there as well. So appreciate it, Pat, and appreciate you being on board.
All right, John. Hey, we'll be talking to you next week, and good luck, and go blue.
There you go. Thank
All
you,
right.
sir.
You betcha. And that's going to wrap up our program for today with yours truly, Pat Hayes, along with Ian Wendt. And we'll see you back here again next Thursday. You'll be on what?
Next Wednesday
Next Wednesday.
and Thursday.
I'll be here on Tuesday and Thursday next week. Have a great week. You're inside the cave.